Hey, welcome to Musings episode number 393. We got a fun show today. So we're going to jump right into things with Scott doing his quick ad read, and then we'll get some guests.
All right. Team Titans Real Estate, you know the pitch. Posting the phone number there. We just had daylight savings time kick in, which means people start turning to real estate. We're already getting calls for people wanting market analysis on their home. So if you're looking to buy or sell, give us a call. This is not the same market as last year or the years before. Things have been in a state of flux there. So you want people who are on top of it and can give you up-to-date strategies that'll work for you. Give us a call, 586-232-5144. Team Titans.
All right. Well, let's just get right in here. Welcome to the stage, Randy Zimmerman, returning guest, and Russ Leach. Hey, guys.
Hey. Welcome aboard.
Glad to have you guys here. Randy and I talked a couple weeks ago at the Great Lakes Comic-Con about the current crowdfunding you guys got going on.
Yeah.
So we thought we'd have you guys on here, talk a little about what you guys going on there. I know the Shadow Kingdom was the first one, and now we're into it, Atlantean, and this is book 2 of Atlantean coming out. There it is, Shadow Kingdom. Got that one great. I missed the Atlantean. I'm not sure how I missed that, but I picked it up from Randy.
There you are.
So
yep, I got mine too. Love it.
Great read. Great read.
Thank you very much.
Love this the way you guys are handling that story, and I swear, reading these books from you guys as we get into here, it takes me back to being a kid, and even reading just the comic strips of some of these great, adventure comics that they used to get in the newspaper. That's why you look forward to the newspaper every day. Nobody wanted the news. I wanted them 2-3 pages of comic strips.
Yep.
That's it. Thank you. That's the best compliment we could get, because it's exactly what we're trying to do.
Excellent. So I guess we're going to start it. Let's start with the Shadow Kingdom, because that's where it started at. How did this get started for you guys?
It was all Russ's fault.
Okay.
So I do a podcast twice a week where we look at old comics and have great conversation, just like here at Odd Musings. But Russ mentioned to me that he's a big fan of John Buscema's work, especially on Savage Sword of Conan. So I said, well, why don't you take one of the Howard stories that's in public domain and just adapt it? And he goes, why don't you find a Howard story in public domain and adapt it for me, and I'll draw it. So I said, okay. So one of my favorite Cull stories, was Cull. The more I researched, though, the more I realized that the copyright laws are funky. Anybody who starts dipping into them knows that they like to move the bar every couple of years or so on these copyrights. Yeah. So the Cull story I really, really wanted to do was not in public domain. So I did more research and found that the only Cull story that was in public domain, well, there are 2 stories that were in public domain, but the very first Cull story was the Shadow Kingdom that was in public domain. And I read it. It was a great story. Reread it, actually, because I read it when I was a kid. And I said, well, let's do Shadow Kingdom. So that's what we did.
Okay. So. And now Cull, I was more familiar with Cull. I remembered it in some of the books and comics over the years, but really they did a movie years ago, Cull the Conqueror.
A very badly done Kevin Sorbo movie, yeah.
Yes, yeah, it was not very good.
You can find it. You can find it on Pluto and Tubi, and if you look hard enough, it's all those free streaming services. There's a reason why it's free.
Yeah, and it's a great movie to sit there and be just drinking and don't want to have to think. So
that's exactly what it is. It's an 80s beer movie, late night, brain check film. Yeah, exactly. It's a great.
Kevin, if you're out there, we'll do a book with your likeness. I'd do it in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah. That's no reflection on Kevin Sorbo.
No.
I was just saying, wasn't Kevin. You can't blame
Hercules.
You can't blame an actor for really crappy writing.
Not at all.
It's like blaming an artist for really crappy writing or blaming a writer for really crappy art. So
exactly, yeah.
But the more research I did into the story, the more it was obvious that we had to do it, because not only is that the one of the few Cull stories that were actually in public domain, but the Shadow Kingdom is the first story that Howard did that is in that genre. It literally defined the sword and sorcery genre. And he took months working on it. He'd write it and shelve it and not be sure about it and write it, rewrite it. And then once he sent it to Weird Tales, they picked it up right away. So he said, cool, here's another dozen stories. And they only took one more of those. And the rest of them they rejected. And I'm not sure why, because some of those stories are just absolutely incredible. And the one that they did end up printing, I think is probably the other one that they printed was probably Howard's, I would say, clunkiest story out of all of the Cull stories that I've read. But Shadow Kingdom was it. It was just a perfect story. And when it sat there and started breaking it down to comic pages, it just naturally broke down. And luckily we had room to stretch the story however it needed to go. We weren't under, a floppy page confinements of only 24 pages. And we took it out to 56, I think.
No, 69 pages.
69 pages. Russ would know. Russ knows that because he did every last one of them. And it turned out incredibly, incredibly good. So Russ was happy with that a lot. And he goes, okay, what are we going to do beyond this? Let's take the characters and run with them. So
and that's what I love that you're doing that.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
I thought I'd do a road trip with them. So it's like a buddy cop road trip, Planet of the Apes TV series kind of thing. And I just thought these guys, they could just go out into the world and have adventures based upon the final couple of pages of the book where Cull insisted that he'd hunt the Serpent Nation down. And there's a small but very, very short monologue by Brule to say what a fantastic guy he is and he'll do what he says. And I thought, well, why don't we just take them out there incognito so they don't know that he's a king, and just have fun with it. So you've got an arc where they're kind of after the Serpent Nation, but at the same time you can drop off for a dragon or a witch or a warlock or whatever, and chuck an adventure story in. And actually, we started off with an adventure story. It was very brave by Randy, but it was an adventure story, and then we kind of wound up at the end, pointing to where we're going. So that's the idea: is just to entertain and have fun with it. Be consistent. So we want to bring 3 out a year, and three at 50 pages plus a year is a fair amount. But keep it serialized so that people can jump in and enjoy it. But at the same time, you can pick up a single book and just enjoy the story. So the old comics that you were saying, that's where we are. So
I think that's what really drew me to it in the first place, was the fact that it was just like a jump on in, have fun. It is serialized, but that's what was great about all the old serialized comic books and comic strips back in the day was you could just, if you got an issue as a kid, you jumping in, you didn't feel really too lost. You got you right into it and what's going on. You could figure it out right away. And then when you picked up the previous stuff, you picked up on more nuances in that, but it wasn't so heavily dependent upon the previous issue to have the next current issue.
Yeah, and there was always a start, middle, and end to each issue. So you might not have a resolution of a complete story, but you had an adventure every issue. So it was easy to jump in and go, I'd like to carry on with that. And comics tend not to do that these days, at least mainstream, corporate, let's call them corporate comics. Don't tend to do that. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's what I've always liked about the independent genre. And for the decades I've known Randy, that's been, I think, part of our allure to each other is both working in independent comics, creating stuff, and wanting the fact that I want someone to pick something up and I may not see them again for a year or two sometimes, but they remember that one issue and they had a story there, but it doesn't leave them hanging so far that they can't, come back and say, okay, I'm ready for more, or what happened next. I don't know anything else because I got left this big cliffhanger, But sometimes it's not bad to have a little bit of cliffhanger leading into another major story arc, but you don't want it so bad where people going, you didn't tell me anything. You just led them up to a cliff.
And then dropped them off. Yeah. They spent 25 pages having nothing but pizza. Yeah.
Pretty much. It's kind of like some of those. As much as I love Spider-Man, I got so tired for years ago of it'd be a whole issue of just Peter there whining about whatever. And I'm like, I didn't need 24 pages of him crying the whole time.
I wanted at least 18 pages of him punching the vulture in the nose. That's
exactly.
what you want. You want to be entertained. You want it to be fun. So
I was rereading on the Atlantean last night, and just I read the first story again last night. One is you really captured like I said, the comic strip, but you also captured that whole Dungeons and Dragons feel with everything there, with the RPG feel of that. And I love it. It's called the Demon's Breath, the pub they're in. I'm like,
Mhm.
this needs to be a real place. You got some
Yeah, you'll
great
see
characters.
more of that in future volumes. There's a lot
Yeah.
more going on.
Yeah.
So
So that was a great place. So you guys got the Shadow Kingdom going, and then now we're going into the Atlantean. So this is a wholly original story versus what the Shadow Kingdom was an adaptation.
Yep.
All right. So
no intimidation at all trying to follow Howard either. None.
yeah, now I know a lot of people may not know who Robert Howard is.
Yeah.
Oh
You know,
man.
If you don't find out, okay, kids.
yeah, I
Oh
think
yeah,
there's-
you really do need to find out.
I mean,
Absolutely.
there's tons of stories. You mentioned about him, some of the stuff way back then. They just dropped it or didn't like it or whatever. I think he was so far ahead of his time on what he was creating that I think it's taken, even now people don't fully understand how great the storytelling was and the worlds he created. They think they do because they've seen other people that have learned from that to create their own, even for like Bakshi animation, other stories. You got the Conan movies based off his Conan stories, things like that. So I think really people need to learn who Robert Howard is. I know one of the ways is, if you want an easy way, is to watch the movie that came out in the 90s with Vincent D'Onofrio. It gives you more of the manic side of who the man was and kind of where he got the idea for a lot of this stuff.
From what I've read, that's a little over dramatized, but man, he really does. D'Onofrio does such a great job with it.
Yes, and I mean, you don't get a lot on who Robert Howard was out there. There's not a lot of information. So I mean, what they did for that, it's over dramatized, but it's also really about the best information I think we have out there, because he was such a reclusive person.
Yeah, but the thing is, the stories are so good. The yarns are just and I mean, when I say pulpy, I mean pulpy in the best of ways. He literally created that genre, and he was Cull. You go in and everything that I've read about Howard, he created Cull as part of him. It was almost like a self-insert in the best of ways. Cull's very retrospective. He's always questioning himself. But when it comes time to fight, that bloodlust will kick in, and he'll do the madman barbarian thing. And that the thing was with Cull, that he had so many stories that the Weird Tales editor, whose name escapes me at the moment, just rejected him. He ended up figuring out what the problem was technically, and he takes one of the Cull stories and strips off the character's retrospection, worrying about where he is and who he is and where he's going, and he ups the rawness of it, adds a demon sword, and then resubmits it, and that's the Phoenix and the Sword, which is the first Conan story.
Okay. See, that's the one thing I don't know myself, of course, what I have read over the years. It's just stuff you can find and pick up here and there. You find something like, oh, that's a Conan story. You never know they don't have anything. I'm sure you can find it now online, but back as a kid, I couldn't find stuff that said which was the first one, which was this. You're just finding collections and things like that. So, and as different publishers just do stuff out there, you go on Amazon, there's a whole ton of stuff. It's like, I completely forgot he did Solomon Kane.
Oh yeah, Solomon Kane was before Cull was created, but it's got all of those tropes. You see little seeds of that planted all through Solomon Kane. He wanted to go back in time to a time where he didn't have to worry about being historically accurate, because there was no written history at that point. So whatever he put in there, that was history.
Oh, I think that was the best part of it. So,
and then with Conan is about 200 or so years.
I think it's thousands. It's
a couple thousand years after Cull. And still in that period where there wasn't any written history. So he was able to make a lot of that up as he went along.
I think the Thurian Age and the Hyborian Age is punctuated by the sinking of Atlantis.
Yeah.
Just about. So
grand disaster. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's what, a lot of people find it very interesting, is the fact you call it the Atlantean. So it is set around that time of Atlantis, which is, as more myth than fact anymore.
Yeah. Well, we chose that name partly because of the copyright rules.
Yeah.
Obviously, we can't put Cull on the cover. You have to be careful putting Robert E. Howard's name on the cover. You have to make sure that people know it's not written by him. It's just inspired by him.
Yeah, I think you guys had it was
We had continuing in the first one, and we got
yeah.
inspired in the second one. So you have to be very explicit about that. And they were, was it Ablaze did the Cimmerian,
Yeah.
which is effectively Conan because they couldn't put Conan on the front.
Mhm.
And we've effectively done the same thing. We've just called it the Atlantean. So the Cull is the Atlantean as Conan was the Cimmerian. So yeah, that's
Go
the way
ahead.
we worked it, and it got
Yeah.
around two things. First off, it's an interesting name. It kind of is quite snappy, exactly as you're saying. It causes Atlantis is always this dreamy concept, and then on top of that, it got around all of the copyright issues as well. I mean, we are in public domain territory. We're very explicit about that. The characters are from the Shadow Kingdom, which is explicitly in public domain. So that's all we're doing. We're quite set within that and happy with that. We just had to make sure what we put on the cover was worked with that as well.
Yeah, we've
So
run into that with our Crimson Shadows as well, and Scott can talk to you about that. So
Yeah, and with the moving forward in the Atlantean series now, you said you're going into new territory with your own original writing. So what are some of the challenges you found in trying to pave a new path story-wise, but trying to keep the same voice of the original?
Well, that's part of the fun, part of the challenge, really, is to keep those elements going, and you also have to stay away from anything that might be recognized as a Cull trademark that they've used before. For example, the Marvel Cull had a squared off crown when he was king, and he had a big scar across his face, and those identifying marks he hasn't quite gotten to yet in our story. He's not king of Atlantis. In the Shadow Kingdom, he becomes king of Valusia. He is an Atlantean who was exiled, and then he fights his way into the kingdom of Valusia, claims himself to be king, and then in Shadow Kingdom finds out that it's been overrun, or there's a conspiracy to take his throne by a race of shape-shifting lizard people. And that's where all the shape-shifting lizard people myths started springing up from as well. There's a few all through history, but Howard really solidified that into the lizard people thinking that you get today. Yeah. But those elements we try to stay consistent with and try to tie back to Shadow Kingdom as much as we possibly can, and stay away from all of the other elements. The other stories that Howard wrote, he's a king, he's in either Valusia or becoming king of Atlantis, and we still have a lot of time in his timeline before that happens.
So when you're writing, are you keeping in mind that further mythology he's created, so that you're sticking to what is considered canon in his writings, so that you don't counteract anything he wrote?
We don't want to consciously do that, but and there are a couple of key elements that I'm aware of in the stories that I'm staying away from. For example, no talking cats. So I have threatened a talking dog, though, a couple of times. But yeah, and there's another story that he did, the Mirrors of Zun Thun, that we will be adapting into our storyline in the 4th volume.
Nice.
And we'll be using elements from that as well in the future. So, and there's a couple of really good keys on that as well. But on top of that, we're just making our own universe out of that, and blazing, introducing some real interesting characters and blazing a trail off from there. So,
nice. Brett, I'm going to put up the Go Fund My Comic page so people can see that.
Yeah.
And I'll drop the link in again.
Fund My Comic. Yep, 77 backers already. Excellent. We picked another one.
I grabbed mine this morning.
Oh, sweet. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I jumped on it last week when I got a chance to hop on there.
We do go out to retail, so obviously you want people to back it on crowdfunding, because more of the money does come to you. I mean, that's what it's all about. However, saying that, readership is the most important thing to us. Once the campaign ends, we will be available as an online shop through Fund My Comic, through Arrow, but also it goes out to Barnes and Noble, Amazon,
Amazon,
whatever,
yeah.
so people can pick it up. Sometimes it's just that much cheaper. If you're if you've got a Prime membership, then you can pick up postage for free, that kind of thing. So we just want it in people's hands as much as possible. That said, if you back the book at the source, at Fund My Comic, you get your book before it goes to retail. So everybody gets their packages before we promote to retail. And also, it's a slightly different print. So whatever we print in this first run is unique. So if we print 250 books, there's 250 books that have a specific look to them. Okay. It might be color changes. It might be an extra pin up. It might be any number of things it could be. And in this particular case, we're also giving away a free print of the front cover. And I think that's probably something we'll continue to do, so that it gives backers that special aspect. So they feel like they're an early adopter. They've helped us out. They're there with us all the time, and they get something special. But once that's done, if people don't have the money to do that, or if people miss it, then it does go to retail, and it means that people can pick it up there. So what we're trying to do is cover all those bases and just build our readership as wide as possible.
Now, you mentioned going to retails. With the retail, with the shakeup now, Randy has been very vocal over the years on Diamond.
Yeah.
You can if you can find Spank the Monkey, there you go. With the changes happened, what kind of paths are you guys using to get it out there on the retail?
Well, we're tied into Critical Blast. Critical Blast puts us up on the Ingram book ordering system. So any independent bookstore really that uses the Ingram system, which is a really popular book distributor, can order the Atlantean for them. Yeah, but on top of that, Critical Blast has a large library of books that they've put together that they also offer the Atlantean over at criticalblast.com. And they put us up on Barnes and Noble and Amazon, the big books storefronts that air as well. And we're hoping to get where we're looking at putting together an Arrow Comics like storefront over at fundmycomic.com as well, where you'll be able to order the Atlantean directly from Arrow if you want. But also every campaign that we do, we offer a catch-up tier on, so that you'll be able to, no matter what volume we're on, you'll be able to get the entire library if you want, all at once, mailed to you through the GoFundMe campaign.
Yeah, now you mentioned
or not GoFundMe, excuse me, through the Fund My Comic campaign. I mix them up all the time.
Oh yeah, it's all
Fund My Comic campaign. Yeah.
It's a GoFund Kickstarter.
Yeah.
So I mean, now the size you guys went with is the magazine size. Now, was that partly because of looking at distribution versus going comic wise, or is that just because you wanted the size of the pages?
It was an artistic, creative choice by all of us. We wanted to do something slightly different. If I'd have had my way, it was printing restrictions meant that we had to go with A4, just 297 millimeters by 210 millimeters by 297 as a European standard. But it's also a magazine standard as well. If I'd have had my way, it'd have been slightly squarer, and it would have looked exactly the same size as the old Conan, Savage Sword of Conan magazines. But because of the way Ingram Spark work, we had to go with A4. But we were quite happy with that. The cover stock was good. So it's like a sort of a, I know that you don't like this, Randy. It's kind of like a bookazine, that kind of bookazine. So it's like a magazine, but it's slightly more graphic novelish as far as the paper is concerned.
It's really in the size of those great European albums that you see, like size, heavy metal printed, beautifully trade paperback, square bound. It's just, and the printing job that they do is absolutely
the print is great. Yeah, but it was a creative choice. We wanted to do something slightly different. Yeah.
Okay, I was kind of curious on that because I did feel like a heavy metal magazine the first time I got it. So
that's the idea,
and I like that because in fact, heavy metal, which is coming back, is doing the same thing. I backed their crowdfunding on that. So I think this fits great, and what I knew from back then and what should be coming back is people need to start embracing this type of storytelling again. I believe so. There used to be a lot more out there years ago. You can just pick up. I've lost track of even remembering some of them because I'd pick up like one issue here or there and have some great independent comic stories. You'd never see it again because bookstores wouldn't carry it. But
Yep.
it's great to hear that you guys have this out there in the bookstores. So with the campaign, I think Scott had a question. Scott, you have a question?
Oh, I'm getting old. I forgot what my question was.
Oh yeah, we're all carrying some decades here. So
yeah, it happens a lot.
Yeah. We're not Kickstarter, we're not Indiegogo or GoFundMe for a reason. We're Fund My Comic. That was a platform created by Luke Stone in order to give everybody who does comic campaigns a fair and level playing field in order to get out there and be seen. And if you get up on just the front page of Fund My Comic, we're like number 2 listed on the on the main page. Then that's because we're an active campaign that people are still buying into. That any active campaigns go onto the front page, and so that everybody can see what's hot and what's going on. So
yeah, they do a great job.
Very
with
equal playing field. Yeah, very well. It took Luke a long time, and frankly, it took a lot out of him to get it up there and done. But it was something that he felt that absolutely had to happen, especially with the way that a lot of people are being treated or had been treated in the past by Kickstarter and Indiegogo. We needed a platform just for comics, no little electronic devices or movie backing or anything like that. It's all comics all the time. Fundmycomic.com. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the campaign a little bit. Scott's got it up there on the screen. So I know you've got you get the A4 print with that. So let's see what else we got, Scott.
Okay. So I'm scrolling down. Let's see here. These are the different rewards on the side. So
yep.
As well as $15, you can get your issue 2 of the Atlantean. This is the catch-up reward you had talked about. $25, you get issue 1 and 2. Very nice. On the left side here, there's sample pages of the interior art. This goes back to what Brett was saying, how it's for me, it's like comfort food, the art style of art in here, because it's like what I grew up on,
Yeah.
And you're doing Russ, you're doing an ink wash on this, correct?
Yeah, I actually use a Copic grey marker. I've tested a few bits and pieces, and because of the paper that I like to use, I can't go full on with an ink wash. It just crinkles the paper up. So I started using different tools, and at the moment I'm using a Copic marker, but I'm still testing different things. So I may end up going to a brush and ink if I can find the right ink or if I can find the right process.
I really like the Copics. I used those when I was doing the sketch cards and stuff for companies. They do a good blend with each other. They do.
Yes. I've actually the second one is better than the first one. I've kind of got to grips with it a bit more. It's coming out okay. I'm quite pleased with it.
Nice. Here for just $45, you get the book and a signed print. That's very nice.
Every issue, one of the things we do is every issue I will pencil the cover, and then I will get outside talent to paint it. So the first one we had Marco Freire, who does work with Red Dragon publisher, who's taken our book to translate into Portuguese in Brazil.
Oh wow!
So we had him do our front cover as well. He did the painted cover for Shadow Kingdom, the retail version. So I pencil the cover. I get outside. This time it was Ink Spots, a guy that I've done some work with before, and Only Death Could Save Us. And I do an inked version. So on the inside front cover, you get the inked version, and on the outside, you get the painted version. And we always do a tier where you can pick up a signed black and white print. So that's why we do that. And it's just a thing. It's just like a unique selling point. That's what we do with the book. And I think from now on, we didn't do it with the first one, but from now on, we're also going to have the front cover as a free A4 print for anybody who backs us in the campaign.
Yeah, I got to see the work up close of the painted cover versus like the inks and the pencils. And when I saw Randy over at Great Lakes Comic-Con, and he does a phenomenal job with the painting. of really staying true to your original art, but really bringing it up to this amazing feel of that like I loved when I was growing up the Dungeons and Dragons books and games, the cover art, that painted look, and I feel like you guys capture that in this.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I mean that's another creative decision we had. We wanted painted covers. We wanted to fit that savage sort of Conan feel, Dungeons and Dragons feel, where you get those covers and different styles as well.
Yeah, those old great 70s black and white magazines, like you saw Marvel kick out in that. It's really in that ballpark.
Yeah.
We're doing what we love. I think that's, and touch wood, we've had a lot of great comments about it. It shows because we love it. Yeah. So it comes through on the pages. So
if you do
also get an original sketch.
Yep.
$90, you get the issue and an original sketch. That's great. I mean, if you go to a Comic-Con and order a commission, you're easily paying that. So that's a great deal, and you get the issue with it. Mm-hmm. Then original page art. This is always fun if you're a collector to get those original comic book pages. Yeah, remember back in the old days, it's rare now to get original art because so much is done through computers. I remember seeing the whole books of original page art and going through those and just being amazed. When I remember a Comic-Con I went to when I was like 10 years old, and I got to see original Spider-Man art. Mm-hmm. And like, it just captivated me that like, wow, this is the actual page,
that some of this is for, I mean, hopefully, when I'm dead, they'll be worth a lot more. So it'll be for my kids. So I'll just hand it over to them and see what they can sell. But I went on a journey. So without it to being too long a story, I'd had other careers. And I was accepted as a penciler for Marvel in '95. Never actually got any work, so I carried on paying my mortgage, being an art director. I did lots of different things, had my own business or stuff. So I ended up coming back to comics in 2010. And I was exclusively digital. I was scared to death of inks because I'd never done them before. I'd obviously penciled, but I'd never inked. It scared me senseless. So and having come from a very digital background with the career that I'd had, I jumped straight into a screen. I bought myself a Cintiq, and I just got on and did that. And I picked up gigs. I did Doctor Who and some Marvel stuff. Did Batman more recently. But over that time, I found myself desperately wanting to do real artwork. Real artwork. That's tough on people that do digital artwork.
Sorry, folks.
Physical artwork, traditional artwork.
Yep.
And anyone who says that, you look at the whole AI topic. Anybody that says doing it digitally is cheating is an idiot. Okay, it's not cheating to do it digitally. It's just a different tool. You still have to come there. You still have to come to the party with your abilities, with your skills. So I over the period, I did Only Death Can Save Us, my first graphic novel all on my own. And some of what I wanted to do was offer some of the pages in ink. And I'd done everything digitally because I wanted a certain feel. And so I ended up doing 4 or 5 pages, traditional pages to sell. And I managed to sell them all, which I was really pleased about. And I thought, do you know what? I'm really enjoying this. So over the period of time, my process has changed. So what I do now is I pencil digitally because it's quick. It's like having a light box and just doing your photocopies and whatever, your different bits and pieces that you do. But you're doing it all on layers. It's dead easy. And then I print out an A3, like a artwork size to the printer, and I stick it on my light box, and then I ink over the top. And so my process has completely changed, but it means that I've now got stacks and stacks of traditional art. So at any point in time, if somebody wants any, they just have to contact me, and I will sell them anything. But at some point, I'd like to have them in a library, like on an eBay shop or something like that, so that I can be a little bit more proactive. But every campaign will have traditional art for sale.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Nice.
long story, short as I could make
No,
it.
that's good.
No, actually, I love the process, and that's actually the process. I'm more a writer. Scott would say I can doodle, but that's about it. Um, but I told some of these, especially younger people at the shows we do over the years, they're all doing everything digital. I'm like, you need to start doing some little traditional too.
Yeah.
And actually, you can do exactly what you said. They sketch it up digitally, print it out, and then do the inks, and that's when they can get into nuances and the fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
In fact, and we've done that. Kevin does the inking on Scott's Crimson Shadows, and I know he's
Right.
printed out pages and done the inking that way versus
Oh, brilliant.
digitally. So, and
Yeah.
not on every single page, but on certain ones and certain stories, parts, and things like that.
Yeah.
I think it's a great way to get some original artwork out of there, but still using, as you said, tools. The digital
Yes.
stuff's a
Yeah.
tool. It's not AI. I mean, I've heard the drawings people look at mine, they go, "Oh, did you do that digitally?" I'm go, "What do you mean by that?" And before any terms of AI, the last couple of years, they're like, "Oh, I don't know." I'm like, it
So
doesn't
I
matter.
find-
If
what
you
I
got
find
a
with
hand with a
using,
pen and you're drawing, it's
Exactly. Yeah.
doesn't
What
matter.
I find using digital too, though, is I love, like when I do the conventions, I love doing original drawings on the spot, though, because there's a mind hand muscle connection and how you get proportions and everything. And
Oh yeah.
and what the danger with digital I find is if you do it too long, because you can quickly make adjustments and fixes,
Yeah.
that muscle memory gets a little lazy, a little atrophy happens, and then your proportions will be more off. And I find if you go back to traditional drawing, your digital drawing will be much faster because you don't have to do so many corrections because you keep that mind muscle connection fresh.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
for
Absolutely.
me,
Yeah.
going back and doing hand-drawn work on paper, I love doing sketch covers and commission drawings for that reason, because that kind of, it's like if you go work out, if you're constantly doing machines, every now and then you want to throw some free weights in there just to kind of yourself out and get everything working together. And I feel like that's traditional versus digital, but you still need the talent for digital. You still got to creativity. You got to understand the setting, lighting, all that stuff. So it's not just like Brett was saying, people will be like, did you draw this freehand or digitally? I'm like, oh, both, because I have a
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think everybody thinks I probably draw with this, which if anybody's ever tried to draw with a mouse, it's no,
don't do it.
It doesn't work.
The old remember old Windows Paint.
Yeah. Yeah. So as this is ongoing with the Atlantean, I know you're looking at 3 a year. Do you guys have an end point, or is it just going to be just continuous stories? And
well, it's part of the fun. We're just going to keep stretching it out and seeing how we'll stop when people stop reading.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd really like. I mean, some of this is about having a legacy, and I don't mean that in the very cliquey way. I mean, I'd really like to apply myself to something, and have some length to it, and have a body of work that I can leave. I'm not the kind of person that needs to be famous. I don't need you to know my name. I'd just like you to read the book and appreciate it. And if somebody can be inspired by it, even better. That's the point. Is if you can leave something like that, but also feel like you've done something. I did a 2-year run on Doctor Who, and but that was penciling and inking. I only got some color, so I've done that's the longest run. I did 5 years on How to Draw the Marvel Way, but that wasn't strip. That was licensed work every month. So it felt good to be on something for that long, but I was obviously not in control. I'm not the editor. I'm not the BBC or Marvel or whoever it is. We're in control of this.
Right.
And if we want to make it last and people want to read it, obviously there's no point in banging your head against a brick wall if nobody wants to read it. But as long as people are enjoying it, we're enjoying making it. And I think that's what's most important, really.
Along your lines of wanting legacy, like for me, I did licensed Star Wars work and some other stuff. It's fun in the moment, but there's something about when it's your creation
Mm.
and your story and you're putting it out there. And yeah, you don't get the reach that those franchises get. But it's so rewarding when you're at a convention and someone buys your book and then they come back and they want another because they loved it. And there's something so satisfying to that the license work just never gives you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I got to work on Doctor Who magazine, which was kind of like a thing from when I was a kid.
Mhm.
So that was a big thing, and I drew Batman for a year, and that was a big thing. That's out of my system now. I got those two things, and I'm like, yeah. I mean, I'd love to draw for 2000 AD, but really, I'd love to draw for 2000 AD from 1982, not from 2022. So yeah, that's not a never though. If you're out there and you want me, I will draw for you. I'm like I am an art monkey. I will have a pencil and do anything. But I got to do those things, and that's great. Just like you're saying, you got to do those, but they don't satisfy you. I'd rather have, I'd rather have 100 or 500 people reading our books and going, that's great, I really love that, than 50,000 or even 5 million people seeing my art and not knowing who the hell did it or why they did it, and just have somebody else's brand over the top of it. You just become one of the many. I think that's partly why we have some of the problems that we have with the big brands, is that people want to apply themselves and leave their mark on these large brands instead of being respectful to them, which means, you've got two things going on there. First of all, be respectful to the brand, write Spider-Man, not you as Spider-Man. Okay. But secondly, the creators themselves are having that trouble in a lot of ways because larger companies won't take any chances. They won't do something new, look, you got this talent on your books, get them to do something new, not to just regurgitate everything that's been done before. And so you've got this thing going on, and that's why independent comics are so great.
I think that, that's exactly why I like doing them and why I like being a part of them and reading them and writing them and creating them. Is I like having, like you said, that legacy. It's work that I did. And I got asked when I first started doing this, do you want to eventually get a job with one of the big three or whatever at the time? I was like, no. I said, I'd rather just do my own thing. I don't want some jackhole editor saying, oh, sorry, we don't like that,
Or the companies we do want to work for, like Russ said before, are long gone. Decades.
They're not the same.
Past.
They're not the same anymore. No. Don't meet your
characters. Aren't the same. The icons are. I tell everybody, all of my heroes died at Crisis and Heroes Reborn. They've just been replaced with soulless zombies ever since. You want to read the good stuff, you got to go back and
you want to read a really
material.
If you want to read a really good superhero comic, like adventure superhero, there's a guy in the chat, Genuine Comics, Dave.
Yeah.
And he produces Perfect 10. Okay. And that is a cracking comic. He does a fantastic job. Absolutely fantastic. And he's in the same vein as we are here on this panel. It's like it's about adventure and fun and entertainment. And that's what's the most important thing about comics. I think you should be entertained. I think comics are great from the perspective of getting kids to read. I think they're very undervalued in that perspective. But if you're marketing in the way that Marvel does, you're not actually marketing to kids anymore. And they haven't done for a long time. I wouldn't put half the stuff that Marvel kicks out in front of a 10-year-old child that they're in my house. I just wouldn't do it. It doesn't matter who the relationships are with. Okay. I don't want the relationship stuff. I want action and fun and entertainment. I don't want a writer talking down to me. Something that we did with the Doctor Who Adventures. Jason Quinn, who's the editor now of Doctor Who magazine, is he always wrote up, not down. And something that they did, with Marvel comics when I was a kid, is I used to have to go and get a dictionary to find out what a word meant. And that doesn't happen anymore. I don't see that happening in corporate comics anymore. It's full of messaging and all kinds of other stuff instead of just entertaining. And And so comics can be educational. They're the best storytelling medium there is. That's my personal opinion, although I am right. And that's why they should be read, and they should be entertained. But it's not just about the educational aspect. They're great for sharing cultural viewpoints. So not talking down to people, not telling people what they should think, just sharing a cultural norm, if you like, in some ways. Like good versus evil, like just archetypes, and that's why entertaining comics that entertain are the best kind of comics. Doesn't mean that there shouldn't be comics about everything. Of course there should. Europe is a great, and Japan are great examples of that. You get comics about anything in Japan. I think manga do like for golf, stroke, fishing. Yeah, it's like they do all kinds of stuff. And there should be comics should have all kinds of genres. But if you're going to do action and adventure, or Dungeons and Dragons adventure, science, whatever, make it entertaining, because that's what it's there for. That's why people are going to pick them up.
And right now, I think there's such a desperate need. I think there's such a desperate need out there right now for heroic fiction, where you have characters that are fighting unbelievable odds and winning or losing, but the idea is fighting, and it's the adventure that's the entertainment.
Yeah. And with that,
it gives you something to inspire to. These heroes.
Yeah, I think Scott's got a slight delay on us because.
Yeah, I do. I think
it's okay, but what you said about the heroic adventure, we need that. Scott and I talk about it on our show quite a bit with different movies and different stories, things like that. Is all these storytelling have gone to make the villain almost the hero. We need to go back to having really proper villains.
Oh yeah,
and I it's like we talked a few years ago when the second Maleficent movie came out. I said, I watched the first one. It sucked. So I wasn't going to watch the second one. And I said, they took a really good villain and they tried to humanize her and make her the victim. Yep. And I said, we need to go back to having really good villains. Superman, Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor doesn't need to be a hero. He's a villain. That's what you want him to be. Things like that. Spider-Man, when he goes after Green Goblin, Goblin should be a villain. He doesn't need to be this victim that, oh, sorry, it wasn't his fault. It was, Joe Schmo who picked on him as a kid. No, get back to the good heroic adventures where you, like I said, the good versus evil. Cause that's in the real world, there may be some mix here and there, but realistically you see good and you see evil.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you want to do story about archetypes, you shouldn't be mixing them up. There's, that you can't blend them like a color tree. They're distinct from each other. So I think, looking back and seeing the way that they handled Magneto, he started off as the bad guy, and slowly he became, because of his past, and because of the way that he was shown, displayed in comics, especially through the 90s. He softened. He softened. He's a bad guy, but there's reasons. And it's okay to have one or two stories like that, but when you make everything villain like a misunderstood soul, it's like no, you need the archetype, you need the distinction. This person wants to blow up the world because they're mad and evil, and that's it.
Yeah,
that's the end of it. Stop them at all costs. That's what you need.
Yeah, Scott, you were trying to say something before, so or go ahead, Randy.
Randy made the point. It was just everything shades of gray now, and to Russ's point about needing comics for children again. Growing up, these are fake stories, but they inspire you as a child. They grow your imagination. They give you ideals to want to emulate. They
give you something to do when you run outside and play.
Right. Yeah. And it's and then when real life scenarios happen, you have that kind of infused in your psyche of wanting to do what's right, to stand up to something that's bad.
Yep.
And that's valuable as a society as people become adults. But when everything is shades of gray and muddy and we have to understand why they're bad. No, it doesn't matter why. If you're evil, you're evil. It's sorry you had a mommy issues, but you can't do this. You know? And that's what I've been. And I think for at least the first 3 phases of Marvel for the cinematic universe, for me, that's what was really good about the Steve Rogers character, Captain America, is he emulated that. He gave us something to rise up to instead of making him flawed into, everyone else. Let the heroes be something to rise to.
Yep.
Yeah. And that first film, the Red Skull, was evil. He was a bad guy. It didn't matter that he'd been experimented on. You didn't feel sorry for him. He was bad.
He was bad.
He was bad. That's it. And that's why it works so well. So I thought it was a great film.
Yeah.
No, definitely. Well, we're getting close to wrapping up here, guys. Besides the ongoing Atlantean, do you guys have anything else in the works you want to promote?
The Atlantean for us is certainly my main focus.
Okay.
Because it takes so long to draw. That's my focus. I do have 2 other books to my name. That's Only Death Can Save Us 1 and 2, which again you can pick up at retail. The third story is written. It's just on hiatus because I'm deep into sword and sorcery now. But
here's his website here.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, there you are.
So you can pick up those books, but the Atlantean's really where I'm at the moment. That's my my passion at the moment. So we're hoping we can continue putting those together.
I hope so too. I'm really enjoying reading them and seeing what will come out in the second one here.
Okay.
Yeah, when I'm not writing it,
yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to step on your rest.
That's all right, man.
When I'm not writing Atlantean and making lots and lots of notes, I'm currently putting together a collection of an old series that I did for Arrow Comics way back in the 80s called Tales from the Aniverse, along with Susan Van Camp. And we'll be putting an omnibus out on that here probably in the 3rd quarter. We'll have a campaign for that over at fundmycomic.com as well here soon. It'll be an Aniverse omnibus, all of the Aniverse stories, all of the Varsos Vixen stories, even the ones that Sue did with a brand new cover by Sue Van Camp. And if you're familiar with her work, she's doing just amazing stuff back at it, at the same level that she was before. And then after that, we're also going to do a 3rd volume of fan art, and we're working on. I want to do some original stories for that we're hoping to have in those books as well. Sue's already done a Vixen story where she introduces a new character and kind of finishes off a lot of the storylines that were started in the Vixen's end of things. We want to do the same thing with Aniverse. So looking forward to, I'll be concentrating on that. Then I have a Spank the Monkey project that I've been putting off and on hold for way too long about the history of comics that I want to get to and get finished. So that'll be.
Yeah, you've been talking about that one for a while there, Randy.
Too long.
Tell all.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm still looking at. I'm thinking of adding a few more pages because the more I get into comic history, and I love comic history, the more I learn, the more I want to throw into the book, the more information that needs to be there. I'm 40 pages into it already, and I'm just up to the creation of Wonder Woman.
I have to say, of all the people I know and ever met, I swear, Randy, you are the walking library of history for comics. You
I just love this
know
stuff.
The backstory to everything.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. It just fascinates the heck out of it. And again, like what
you
Russ
actually
was
lived a lot of it.
Yeah, well, the last 4, I'm an old man. Yeah, the last 4 decades or so. But yeah, it's such a rich history, and there are heroes and villains and just every kind of story that you can imagine all wrapped into comics history. But that's why I love doing the podcasts that we do. That's really how I got to know Russ and also Glenn Fleming, who's got almost as much experience putting comics together as I do. The 2 podcasts we do, all we do is look at old comics.
Oh, I love watching that.
We talk about how great they are, what inspires us, or with the case with Crime Does Not Pay lately. We've been covering those every Sunday. We've been tearing those apart for one reason or another. And that's an old 50s true crime comic that if you enjoy those true crime stories you see streaming on TV, this is as raw as those books, all tales of mobsters and that, where they all get it in the end with real 50 sensibilities to it. So a lot
I
of
love
that
how
can
you
be
guys
a
go
lot of
page
fun to
by
go through.
page.
Yeah, yeah.
And you it's an open discussion about all things, the storyline, the artwork. I always find it funny though when you point out like when it's a very inconsistent thing where like the artwork is completely like it looks completely different from page to page, or or certain elements just make no sense why it occurred. So I always have fun when you guys start doing that.
We currently
We do.
have a thing with artists drawing stairs. So
Yes, yeah.
it's not an easy thing to do. Got to get it right. Yeah.
Well, see, and that's where digital helps out, because you can just draw it once and then copy it and paste it in every time.
There you go. If you have to. Yeah.
Now, do you have a link at all, Randy, for your podcast, or where can everybody find those at?
We are archived over at the Indie Comics Network. That's the big main archive. Russ archives the shows also over at Comic Book Black Belt YouTube channel. And then I have a Randy Zimm channel over on YouTube as well. Please like and subscribe, all of them. Any type of comments, watches to your heart's content. It's old farts talking comics is what it is. And we just love what we're doing. We're inspired by what we look at. And we try to mutually learn from each other. And I know it's helped all of our artwork going through that. Yeah, there you are. There's a lot of other programming over at Indie Comics Network as well about comics and animation and things like that. You have to nose around the site a little bit. If you get into the, I think it's the live section, we're all interspaced in there, how we come out every week. And we do, I think, 5 or 6 different programs. There's Sunday Funnies on Crime Does Not Pay. We're currently going through Weird Science, the great EC series over at Comics by Night. If you want to catch us live, Comics by Night is 5 a.m. in the morning on Friday, so that we can we catch the British just after tea or morning brunch over there. And I have to drop the wife off to work at 4:30 in the morning, so I figured 5 a.m. was a great time to run a live show.
That's when I see you guys.
And,
I'm an early morning person, so.
Oh yeah.
Oh, good.
Sunday Funnies is live at 9 a.m. every Sunday. And
Nice.
Even if we're at a show, we pre-record a program just so we don't miss that deadline or that time frame. But we're always archived over here, and like I said, Russ is in my channel as well. Majority of our viewership are after the fact anyway. And you don't have to even watch them in order per se, but just look at the wide variety of stuff that we've covered in the past and enjoy yourself. So
I think I've got a playlist over at my channel just for our stuff. So
Sunday Funnies, especially, we try to cover the more unusual material. We've looked at like the Mars Attacks trading card set, and we looked at a trading card set of Kirby's and unusual formatted books over there. Comics by Night are more the stuff that we really love. We spent like a month and a half going over Mobius and all of the blueberries, 3-4 months going over Watchmen issue by issue, and stuff like that is over there. And we just love doing it, like I said.
Yeah, it's great.
And we're not monetized or nothing. We don't beg you for money. Any commercials that we run are either for our stuff or they're fake.
Although my channel's very close to 1,000, but I don't think it matters anymore, does it?
Yeah.
No. Sign up.
Yeah.
I have like no subscribers over on my channel because I don't nurse it the way it should be. But if you go over there, please like or any of those places, please like and subscribe.
If you're interested in the Atlantean, issue 3 will be going to crowdfunding in July, and issue 4 will be going to crowdfunding in October. Nice. Any information you want about that, you can sign up to my email list. You can go to russleach.com and just press the button and subscribe to the email list. So if anybody out there does want to find out more about it, just keep up to date with it. That's what you need to do.
Well, we'll have you guys back when you get ready to run that again, or after it's running again.
Yes.
Talk some more about what's going on there. Anytime you guys want to pop on, just say, hey, what are you guys doing? Pop me in.
Well, like I told you, I'm like a vampire. I go wherever I'm invited. So
yeah. Well, the invitation's open anytime. So if you see something you want to pop on and talk about, you just let us know. We're always happy to have you guys here. Appreciate your time. Thank you, Russ. I know.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for
I know
having
you're
me.
like 5 hours in the future from us, but hey, thanks for joining us for now in the present.
That's great.
It's four
Thank you
four
very
right
much
now
for
with
having us on.
daylight
It's
savings
4.
time.
Yeah. Now I can
Yeah.
go back to my dungeon and work.
There you go.
I'm
You
already
guys-
in my dungeon, but I'm getting back to work as soon as we're done here. So.
I got to run for appointments. Scott's probably got appointments because it's a work day for us somewhat. So,
Oh yeah.
but appreciate you guys. We're going to end the show. Hang out just for a minute.
Thanks again.
Cheers. Thank you.